you look at players ranked outside the top 300, you're basically looking at guys that no one would have any business drafting unless you just want to, throw a dart at the wall and hope it hits the bullseye. It's not seen as something that people should do unless you're in the deepest possible league. You're going with the top 200 generally, and in most leagues, you're probably looking at roughly the top 160. When you get past kicker and defense and bench spots and all that, you're really not looking much past that. And then you're just throwing a couple darts, maybe outside the top 160, inside the top 200. Outside the top 300, it's kind of like going into the desert and trying to find water. So 2023 is a good example, by the way. Rob Gronkowski was ranked 305th. That was his ADP. He hadn't played in 2 years, but some people thought, just in case he comes back. Antonio Brown that year was 315. He walked off the field 2 years earlier, 2 seasons earlier, and never returned. And yet some people thought, maybe. So that's the kind of long shot that we think about when we think about top 300, players outside the top 300. They're there as reminders of who these people are, but not necessarily of what they can still do. There are exceptions. Sticking with 2023, a little after Antonio Brown, if you played in the kind of deep league that would necessitate drafting Antonio Brown at 315, then you might also be in a league that at 318, you would find Trey McBride. And Trey McBride in 2023 broke through after a relatively quiet rookie year in 2022. So there are those exceptions. And in fact, last year, and this is what I want to talk about today in terms of last year and heading into this year, last year, there were several guys outside the top 300. Again, undraftable, but it doesn't mean we ignore them throughout the season. It means these are guys who potentially could step up if there's an injury. Tucker Kraft is a good example. Last year, he was the 301st ranked player overall, the TE 38. Luke Musgrave gets hurt, and Kraft steps in, and he finishes as the 10th best tight end. Juwan Jennings, he was at 308. He was the WR, I think, 99. And he comes in, he finishes as the WR 24. And basically helps some people win their league with some huge performances. Isaac Guerendo was 333. He was the RB 85. He finished as the RB 48, but that doesn't really do it justice. He had 10 plus points, I think, in 5 games, or 9.9 plus in 5 games. I mean, he was a great spot starter when both Christian McCaffrey and Jordan Mason got hurt. Kareem Hunt was back at 546. He was essentially done. He was like this year's, I don't know if you say Gus Edwards. I mean, Kareem Hunt has more spark fantasy wise because of the pass catching ability than Gus Edwards, but it's that kind of idea. Like, is anyone gonna sign Kareem Hunt, or is he gonna quietly retire in a year, by the end of the year or something? He was the RB 130, and yet he finished as the 26th ranked running back in points per game as a fill-in after Isaiah Pacheco got hurt. And finally, Cedric Tillman. I mean, if you want to look at spot starters, he was ranked 607th. He was the WR 195, but he had 3 monster performances in the middle of the season. He combined for about 66 fantasy points in those 3 games. These guys exist. A lot of times they're either not signed, but still not retired, or they are, for example, with Guerendo, with Tillman, they might be third stringers or second stringers. Tucker Kraft, a backup tight end you wouldn't normally draft, but you still want to keep an eye on them. A number 2 tight end, especially a young number 2 tight end, could be someone that you just keep on the back burner on your radar, because there's always that chance that they could step up. It doesn't mean you draft them. God forbid. You don't want to. And doesn't mean you pick them up if the starter goes down. but not being aware that they exist, not being aware that they might hold value if certain things happen is a lost opportunity. So looking to this year, there's about 10 guys. If I'm counting them up, there's specifically nine, and maybe by the time I'm done talking, I'll come up with a 10th, but let's keep it to nine, who are outside the top 300. Two of them leading things off on the Eagles, Jahan Dotson at 325, A.J. Dillon at 327. Receiver, running back. Dotson's outside the top 100 receivers. A.J. Dillon is about 85th, 84th ranked running back. Both very interesting cases. Dotson has great draft pedigree. Didn't make it in Washington. Is conceivably the unquestioned number 3 wideout in Philly, and there is a decent chance that A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith will miss some games this season. It's entirely possible. A.J. Brown already was hurt. I think it was a hamstring injury during the summer. You never know. And if that happens with an aging Dallas Goedert and Saquon Barkley, in my view, being a high risk for an injury in this time, there's an opening for both of these guys to step up and become, if not primary, then at least secondary options in the offense. Dillon playing with Will Shipley. Dillon could be someone who's getting you 6 to 9, 6 to 10 fantasy points a game if Barkley goes down, maybe a little more if he outplays Shipley. Dotson is someone who could do the same in PPR easily. I mean, he could get 3 catches for 30 yards as the clear-cut number 2 if Brown or Smith go down. It doesn't mean you draft them. It does mean be aware of their existence so that if something happens, Barkley, Brown, or Smith, one of those 3 misses a game, you will see managers, opponents of yours, look at those players and potentially pick one of them up. That's why you need to be aware that they exist and that you need to strike quickly and maybe put in some extra fab if you do the free agent budget thing to make sure that you get them. Sean Tucker at 351. He's the RB 88. I'm a big believer, I had been, of Rachaad White as someone who was overrated last summer, and now undervalued this summer. I might be wrong about that. Sean Tucker could be the much better bargain at this stage. And Tucker is someone who, if something happens with Bucky Irving or if Rachaad White gets hurt, and White is coming into this season already a little nicked up, he's expected to play in week 1, but you never know. So Tucker is someone who should be on every manager's radar. He is potentially one Bucky Irving injury away from being, a 12-plus point per game guy. Emmanuel Wilson is in a similar boat, even more of a long shot. 406 overall, RB 98. Marshawn Lloyd is out for several games, at least. Wilson has shown he can do the job as a backup. He can be a spot starter. If Josh Jacobs gets hurt, it's basically going to be in the short term Wilson and Chris Brooks. My money would be on Wilson to be a weekly starter at that point. And Julius Chestnut. I'm including Brooks, by the way, in this conversation, but he's at 620, and my focus right now would be on Wilson. Julius Chestnut, really interesting case. I'm not a believer in Tennessee's offense, as I don't think that's a hot take. But Tyjae Spears is out for at least 4 games. If Tony Pollard gets hurt, Julius Chestnut could be the spot starter. And he's at 532 overall, RB 117. I think you're getting low upside with someone like that, but in a deep league where you're desperate, if you need a handcuff in September, I can guarantee you Chestnut's probably available in like 98% of leagues. Dillon Gabriel, the Browns quarterback, similar high risk because the Browns offense is lacking at this point comparatively. He's at 591 overall. He's the 84th ranked quarterback, but he is the backup to Joe Flacco, the 40-year-old Joe Flacco. Gabriel, if he steps in, would have a pretty strong array of experienced receivers, including Jerry Jeudy and David Njoku, and Jerome Ford in the backfield at minimum, if not Dillon Sampson, and if not Quinshon Judkins, if he ever gets signed. So there is the potential, even in this offense that could be stunted, for Gabriel to still be an automatic superflex play, or at the very least, an automatic add in deep superflex leagues where no one is thinking of adding Gabriel, but he is the number two. And in some superflex leagues, you want to stash number twos just in case, especially when they're playing behind 40-year-old quarterbacks. And finally, the Chargers. Really interesting case with Najee Harris. It seemed like he might miss time with his eye injury. Maybe now he's going to play in week one. Amaria Hampton is going to be, the clear-cut starter, it seems. But Kamani Vidal at 639 overall and Hassan Haskins at 642 overall. Their positional ADPs are 155 and 157 respectively. If Harris cannot make it through the season, or if he's just not the right fit for this offense, whatever it is, I mean, he was signed, but it's Hampton's backfield as far as we can, all understand it. And it's quite possible that Harris will not be the backup the entire season or will not make it through the whole season. If that's the case, we would see Vidal, or I think it's Vidal, I apologize, or Haskins be the number two. Again, you're not drafting these guys, but you're aware if Harris gets hurt or if Hampton gets hurt, suddenly Vidal or Haskins becomes addable, pick-upable in many leagues. Not knowing who these guys are would be a mistake because some of your opponents will know who they are, and some probably already do. So again, to summarize, guys outside the top 300, we ignore them when it comes to drafting them in general, but we should not ignore them when it comes to understanding where they fit into the depth chart, because we often need to move quickly and confidently when something happens. Injuries happen to pretty much every team, to many playmakers throughout the season. All it takes is one pickup at the right time for one spot start to get you 14 points instead of 6 points. And that could be the difference of a win versus a loss, and that could be the difference between making the playoffs and not. That's why we focus on every single player, even if only for a few minutes. I'm DJ Rudell, Fantasy Football for Winners. Follow me on the blog. Email me anytime. See you tomorrow.